Today we're going to be talking about one of the most important facets of everyday life, taking risks. In particular, we're going to be talking about 3 fears that stop most people taking risks. Now, risk taking is simply engaging in any behavior where you feel that there is a medium to high likelihood of whatever you define as failure. One of the great tragedies in this world is that good people who are kind of good in their core, are also often the least likely to take risks, which leaves the space open for the others to take risks. The deluded narcissists or the ruthless psychopaths who have no problem with risk taking because of their either grandiose arrogance about themselves or their lack of fear. And this is why we end up with such awful politicians and leaders and groups around the world. It's because nobody else is stepping into that space. I want more good people to start taking risks and to start taking up some of that space that's usually reserved for the most evil or stupid amongst us. In order to do that, I need to help you overcome the 3 fears that are stopping you from taking that chance that you really need to take. Number 1, the fear of being unlovable, also known as toxic shame. This is the fear that you believe if you are seen for who you really are, if you're exposed in all your vulnerable truth, that you will definitely be disliked, that there is something inherently wrong with you that is going to cause all people to reject you if they can see it. This fear stops people from forming relationships, from taking care of their mind and their body, from taking leadership opportunities, because deep down they believe, what's the point? I'm going to be found out anyway, and I'm going to be rejected in the end anyway, so why even bother? Warning signs for this fear include social isolation or playing it safe. For example, playing video games, staying at home, or just avoiding opportunities in general. Settling when it comes to friends, kind of taking whoever you can get socially, or what's called dating down, which is only dating people that you feel so unattracted to that you're comfortable with them. People pleasing and the massive raft of behaviors that go with trying to make people like you. And what's commonly known as nice guy syndrome, trying to appear to be a nice person all the time. Anything like blind faith and obedience, just following without any sense of question or without any critical thinking. The solution to overcoming this fear is as simple as it is terrifying. You just need to be more honest. The great thing about this is you don't have to dive into the deep end. You can just start taking little baby steps. Start letting people see a bit more of what you really think, what you really believe, what you really want, what you really feel, what you really don't like. Start allowing people to see little bits more of this over time. Now here's the key. If somebody reacts negatively to that, you move away from them. And if somebody reacts positively, you move towards them. And that's it. There's no sense of rejection or being good enough or not good enough. Just if people react positively to your honesty, you try to include them in your life more, and if they react negatively, you try to include them in your life less. You decide what role they play in their life, not the other way around. Number 2, the fear of being unfixable, otherwise known as the victim mindset. Similar to toxic shame, this is a fear that you are so deeply broken, so unfixable at the core, that there's no point in trying to improve yourself in any way because you're guaranteed to fail. This fear tends to lead people to avoid taking on new projects, to stop learning, to get stuck in their careers without making progression, and often to be really resistant to coaching or mentoring or advice. They kind of see themselves as a turd. There's no point in polishing the turd. There's no point in trying to fix something that's going to always be broken. Warning signs include complaining about things that you could actually change, or focusing on things you can't change and blaming them for your life problems. Any blame in general, even towards yourself. Resistance to support and advice even from people you admire or whom you know to be experts. Being argumentative and controlling whenever any kind of suggestion of improvement arises. Hypocrisy, for example, telling others that they're wrong even when your life sucks. Telling people how to live when you don't even know how to do it yourself. And the most common one is just having a lot of excuses going on about why it's too hard for you. The solution to overcoming this fear is to start with an assumption that you're only living at 10% of your potential, and the fear you have that you're broken is actually designed to keep you in the comfort zone. You could be doing a lot better in the future. You just convince yourself that you're already at 100% potential. So your job is to challenge that belief by trying to improve yourself by 1% every day. In some small, tiny way, try to learn to do something, somehow, a little bit better. After a while, you'll build up so much evidence of improvement that you'll no longer be able to believe that you're unfixable or permanently broken. One way that I personally overcame this fear was following the book Yes Man by Danny Wallace. There's a movie with Jim Carrey under the same name, which is for a year I just said yes to every opportunity. And a lot of these were learning opportunities. I said yes to classes, to travel, to hobbies, to new experiences. And because I was forcing myself to say yes, I had to be exposed to a lot of things I was unfamiliar with, and I had to learn a lot. And in learning, I realized I am constantly capable of improvement. An unfixable person is not capable of improvement. So if you keep seeing that capability, you're going to struggle to keep believing that there's something inherently wrong with you. I'd also challenge you to humble yourself to be open to advice and mentoring and guidance and support from people who know what they're talking about. Anytime you identify that somebody is better at something than you are, ask for their advice and then follow it. Do not allow yourself to ask for advice that you will not follow, and do not resist against advice from people who know more about the topic than you do. Number 3, a very common one, the fear of being incapable, otherwise known as either the fear of failure or the fear of success, which are often just the same fear. This fear is all about not being able to get moving because you're waiting for something. You think that you're missing critical information, that you don't have enough talent, that you're lacking in skills, that you need more resources and support. And you're constantly waiting for those things to arrive before you take action. This fear stops people from taking action and from moving forward because they're overthinking, they're overlearning, they're overplanning, and they're doing a whole lot of procrastinating. They're basically constantly delaying the next move because they're waiting for more certainty and more information and some magic pill to arrive to make the next step easy and comfortable and lacking in confusion. Warning signs include procrastination, often starting things without finishing them or seeing them through to a final result. Shiny object syndrome, constantly being distracted by a new thing to start without finishing your last thing. Avoidance of feedback and criticism, usually through avoidance of exposure, like not showing anyone what you're doing or telling them about it. Asking for permission where none is needed. Asking for other people to give you the green light on something when you can go without it. Being needy for validation and encouragement. Not trusting your own. And always following rather than leading. You don't initiate, you wait for somebody else to go first. There are a few solutions to this, and the most important one is to constantly expose yourself to new hobbies, classes, any sort of learning project. Constantly putting yourself in a position deliberately where you don't know what you're doing, where you're clueless, where you're naive, where you're a beginner. And exposing yourself to that unknown so frequently that you become comfortable with it. The other solution is something I call drafting, which is rather than trying to deliver one great perfect result every time, is you start with a first draft and then you have a second draft and then a third before you build up to the final result. Basically, allow yourself permission to get it wrong the first few times. In fact, make it your mission to do it quick, messy, impulsive, and wrong. Fail forward rather than trying to start successful. As the cliche goes, the biggest risk is not taking a risk at all. The world around you is constantly evolving and changing, people are constantly growing and moving on, and if you don't take risks, you're going to be left behind. And that is far more risky and far more dangerous than taking a few chances here and there. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed that or you have some comments to give, write them down below or share the video around. And please subscribe to the channel to help me build up my audience. And of course, if any of these ideas hit home for you and you'd like more personal support, get in touch, dan@brojo.co.nz, and I can send you either more resources or we can get together for some one-to-one coaching. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you for the next one. Cheers.